Welcome to another video on the channel. In this one I'm going to be previewing the Women's 2020 Cincinnati Open. I have done a full preview for the men's side of the draw as well, so if you do want to check that out, it is already on the channel. But I'm going to be focusing on the women's event today. Similarly to the men's, obviously going to be no crowd due to coronavirus restrictions. There is a few notable absentees as they're in the men's draw. Obviously in the men's we've got likes of Rafa, Nadal, Roger Federer, Nick Kyrgios, Stan Wawrinka, Gael Monfils missing out. In the women's draw we have Ashley Barty, the world number 1, Simona Halep, world number 2, Elena Svitolina, Bianca Andreescu, Kiki Bertens, Belinda Bencic, all missing out unfortunately, due to again a number of different reasons. Some are injured, some are prioritising the French Open, and some just unwilling to travel. But again, like the men's, we'll still have a fantastic event. The WTA events are always wide open. We've had many different title winners and Grand Slam champions within the past 5 or 6 years, but I think this year's US Open and Cincinnati Open are going to be made even harder due to the withdrawals of Halep and Barty. The reason for that, I think you have to say Halep and Barty have probably been two of the most consistent players in the world over the past couple of years. Perhaps not the best on all surfaces, but certainly the most consistent in terms of reaching quarterfinals, semi-finals, in particular Simona Halep. But Ashley Barty being the world number 1, obviously winning her maiden Grand Slam title at the French Open last year, it's the right decision for her to try and defend that, no doubt, but you'd always back Barty to reach the quarterfinal, semi-final of events like this, so without them two in the draw it makes it even harder to pick a winner. However, with that, it means you're guaranteed some fantastic 50-50 matches. Whoever plays the best tennis this next week will deserve to win the title. And there's so many players that could lift the title and sort of bounce back to form. And this is why the WTA is so exciting, I feel, and getting better and better all the time. There's so many opportunities, so many tournaments, and yeah, just opportunities for players to come through all the time, and there's a lot of players taking the opportunities with both hands and make themselves into superstars at a very early age. There's nobody really dominating women's events at the moment. You know, you've got the likes of Serena, and I've mentioned Halep and Barty, who reach the business end frequently. But in terms of Grand Slams and even big Masters events, there's nobody that's winning, 4, 5, 6 events in a row like there is on the men's side. So that means there's so many different title winners and so many fantastic players that are getting opportunities to win and lift titles. And yeah, as I mentioned earlier, over the past 5 or 6 years I've had so many different Grand Slam winners. Just looking from my list, I've got Sophia Kenin, Serena Williams, obviously Venus Williams, both Grand Slam champions. You've got Naomi Osaka, Petra Kvitova, Muguruza, Kerber, Ostapenko, Stevens, Osaka. There's just so many different Grand Slam champions that we've had in the past few years, which makes it for fantastic viewing of women's tennis, and I think it's in a great place as a sport in itself. And kicking off my preview and looking at the players in particular that I think will be there at the bang end of next week in the Cincinnati Open, I think I'll kick off with Karolina Pliskova, who will be seeded number 1, I believe, in this tournament. A lot of people believe she's the best player on the women's side of the two and not to win a Grand Slam, and I think it's very difficult to argue that. She's a player that's won 16 titles in her career, singles titles, including this one in 2016. She won the Cincinnati Open back then. She's always competitive in Grand Slams, but she just hasn't had that breakthrough win yet, I feel, in the semi-final, final. That's really kick-started her career, and I think if she could just get that one win, I think that might make a huge difference. And she introduced Dani Valverde to her camp at the end of last year, and obviously we haven't had a chance yet to see the full effect of that due to lockdown, but it'll be interesting to see whether a guy who's coached previous Grand Slam winners and the likes of Stan Wawrinka and Andy Murray, whether he can be that difference between her winning Grand Slams and not winning Grand Slams, perhaps just giving her that extra mental edge or ability to produce the best tennis in the biggest stages. And she's yet to produce her best performance in a semi-final of a Grand Slam, and perhaps he's a guy who can change that. And yeah, 6'1", she possesses a very, very strong serve, as you can imagine. One of the tallest players in the women's tour. Big forehand, ability to serve and volley, and I think it's a weapon that she probably doesn't use enough. When she really came through in the likes of 2016-17, she served and volleying a lot and had a lot of success. I think she sort of went away from that in the past couple of years for some reason or another, but perhaps that's a thing that Valverde will address and try and implement back into a game. Yes, she's certainly got the ability to win events like Cincinnati in the US Open. I just think she needs that one breakthrough confidence boost and win to believe that she can do it. And yeah, hopefully the introduction of Valverde will do that for Pliskova, as I think she is a player that deserves to win a Grand Slam at some point in her career. Moving on to Sofia Kenin, and since the Australian Open I've spoken so highly of Sofia Kenin. Very young. She's got all the shots in the boot, very consistent all-round game style that I think is so solid. I think a lot of the players on the WTA tour can be criticised often of inconsistency, making too many errors in big games, and when you look at the likes of Madison Keys and Sloane Stephens, they're either hit or miss. If they're on the game playing well, they're capable of beating anybody in the world, but when they're bad, they're very bad, and they make too many unforced errors against players in the top 16, and you're simply not going to win matches. Sofia Kenin just strikes me as a player that's going to be at the top for a long time. She's, as I say, she's got a very consistent game style. It's quite risk free. It doesn't, maybe hit the cleanest of winners or is the most entertaining to watch, but in terms of defence, getting the ball back in court, she's outstanding. But for me, Kenin's biggest attribute almost is her mental strength, and at a young age she showed immense mental strength to win that Australian Open, and she fully deserved it. Beating the likes of Coco Gauff, home favourite Ash Barty, and then previous Grand Slam winner Garbina Muguruza in the final. When you consider that Sofia Kenin had never really made a decent run at a Grand Slam due to her age and inexperience, to beat the likes of Barty and Muguruza, who were previous Grand Slam champions at the Australian Open, is just credit to her mental strength really and her character. I remember in the final against Muguruza, I think it was level in the final set. She was low 40 down on serve and just produced 5 winners to hold serve. And I think from then on, Muguruza just thought, this girl's not going to be beaten today. And to produce that sort of tennis and that level, and back yourself to hit them 5 winners at that stage of the match is unbelievable at that age. And she, went on to win the title and then backed it up in Lyon with another title win. And yeah, just her mental strength and attitude towards the game I think is fantastic, and it'll take her a long way in her career, and I think she'll win many more titles and be at the top of the rankings for a long time. And moving on now to another great, Serena Williams. Obviously chasing greatness, got 23 singles Grand Slams, been trying to level with Margaret Court in 24 for a long time. Reach a few finals, but lost out in the Wimbledon US Open finals to Bianca Andreescu in the US Open and Simona Halep at Wimbledon. Similar to Djokovic really, I believe, in this year. Djokovic has got that added incentive of having no Roger or Rafa, so he knows it's going to be an easier draw. Still not an easy tournament by any means, but certainly easier draws in Cincinnati in the US Open. And obviously Williams has got the added incentive of having no Barty or Halep to face. So it's certainly an easy opportunity at them 2 players there. There are a lot of young challengers on both the men's and women's side, but Williams and Djokovic both have that added advantage of experience, and they'll want to lay down a marker, I think, in Cincinnati and gain that mental advantage over the younger players. Going into the US Open as massive favourites, playing well and sort of being feared to play. I think both Williams and Djokovic will want to do that, and sort of really set down a marker in Cincinnati, lift the titles at the end of the week, show the main business, show they've been working hard during lockdown, and just show that they are still the 2 best players in the world. And it wouldn't be surprised if they were the 2 players picking up the titles next week. I don't think Williams really needs discussing in terms of the game. We know she's got that incredible serve, power, mental strength, ability to come back from behind. And yeah, just an incredible champion really, who continues to produce year upon year. 39-year-old I think this year, and just continues to produce unbelievable level. Reach Grand Slam finals, and it doesn't matter how many sort of young players come through and win Grand Slams. Serena's always at the business end. You have to give every credit for her consistency that she's produced over the years. Madison Keys deserves a mention, defending champion, but as I did say earlier in the video, sort of hit and miss. On a going day she's up there with the best in the world. On a bad day, when she's flailing with the forehand, which is one of her main weapons, then she does really struggle. Did reach the final of the US Open in 2017 before losing to Sloane Stephens. So they're 2 players that are certain certainly capable of big runs in the US. Coco Gauff, I thought she played outstanding last week in Lexington on her return, reaching the semi-finals after beating Irina Sabalenka and Ons Jabeur. For Coco, Serena, she doesn't really need an introduction. We know the sky's the limit for this young superstar. You know, her athleticism, her speed, defence, mentality, it's all there. She's got every shot in the book, and I think as she progresses in size and strength as she gets older, then she's just going to grow into a magnificent player. As long as she stays fit, keeps a solid team around her and stays grounded, the potential is massive there. But I just hope the same thing doesn't happen to her as what has to Osaka, where the media sort of, you know, just hype her up too much, and she's sort of built up to be a superstar before she already is, which can have a negative impact on her career. Just hopefully Coco stays grounded and keeps that family spirit around her and just keeps enjoying her tennis. You know, she's still very, very young, but it's hard not to be excited by what she's produced so far in Grand Slams and other WTA events. Final player I'm going to talk about is Jennifer Brady, who was so impressive last week in Lexington without, you know, she won the tournament without dropping a set, which is just showing how well she's playing, striking the ball outstandingly well, clean, served well, just looks so confident a player, you know, playing fantastic tennis. She's got the added advantage that she's already played and won an event, which a lot of these players can't say yet this year. She's already beat Barty's Elena Muguruza in 2020. So, you know, she comes there in Cincinnati in the US Open in huge confidence and playing very well. So she has to be bang there in the prediction. As a verdict, I've said, you know, a lot of these matches are going to be very 50-50. The whole event's 50-50, really, a coin toss. You can't predict, you know, a player majorly to win this event. You know, there's 16, 18, 20 players that could win this event. You know, even players like, you know, Elena Ostapenko, Sloane Stephens, Petra Kvitova, Angelique Kerber. If they turn up and produce the best tennis and have been doing fantastic work during lockdown and won this event, yes, it would be a shock, but not a major shock. You know, they're all fantastic players, former Grand Slam champions, and they're more than capable of producing tennis that's good enough to win any event. But I'm predicting a big week for Serena, simply for the fact she's chasing greatness. Jennifer Brady has that form going into Cincinnati. Naomi Osaka I would like to see back in the winners' enclosure. You know, I was talking about her in the video. She's a player that, you know, came through at the back end of 2018, then followed it up with another Grand Slam win in the Australian Open. And a lot of the media and fans sort of tipped her to be, you know, the future superstar and chase down Serena Williams and Venus Williams and be the world number one for the next 10 years. And tennis isn't like that, particularly when there's that many good players in the tour. And I think she sort of struggled with the pressure of being number one and being the proposed next superstar, and she's now dropped down to 10th in the world. Hasn't enjoyed a good spell of tennis, and this break might have done the world a good. You know, she might come back and just focus on her tennis more, focus on being that fantastic player that she was in them couple of years. And you know, she's still very young, only 22. We know what a talent she is, to win 2 Grand Slams by the age of 21. You know, you don't fluke that. So I'd like to see Osaka have a good run at the Cincinnati and US Open, sort of regain that confidence, climb the rankings again, and to lift the title again. I think it would be fantastic to see for women's tennis. But my pick for this week is Sophia Kenin. You know, I've mentioned earlier in this video, I'm just so impressed by her mental strength, and I think that could be the difference. I think a lot of these players are all fantastic players that could all beat each other, but Kenin's mental strength and you know, character on court and ability to produce best tennis in the biggest moments just strikes me as that difference maybe. So yeah, Sophia Kenin will be my pick to win in Cincinnati alongside Djokovic, but I will be covering both the men's and women's tournaments throughout. So if you are interested in that, subscribe to my channel and follow me on Twitter. I will leave the link in the description below. But thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next video.